You ever notice how they seem fine? How your avoidant ex looks like they're living their best life right after leaving you, smiling, posting, maybe even showing off someone new. Here's the truth they'll never admit. That fine is fake. It's not healing. It's hiding. It's not growth. It's numbing. But before we tear into their buffers, their rebounds, and their fake peace, let me stop and thank you. If you've been rocking with me through the Avoidant X series, salute. I know those videos hit different. You saw their patterns. You saw your own. You finally understood why silence, why no contact, why walking away was your only power move. And you loved it, because for once, someone told you what was really happening behind their "I don't care" mask. But now, we're stepping into something even bigger. We're taking every lesson from that battlefield and forging it into armor. This new series is not just about them anymore. It's about you becoming unbreakable. This is the high-value dating blueprint. Your map out of the chaos into clarity. Your step away from begging, chasing, overthinking, and into the kind of energy that makes people either rise up to meet you or fall back because they can't reach you anymore. So here's my challenge to you. Don't skip. Don't scroll. Don't let distractions steal this moment. This is you, right now, investing in yourself. Not half listening while you text. Not while you creep their Instagram. Lock in. Just you and this video. Because what I'm about to break down is the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Avoidants don't win after a breakup. They delay the loss. They distract from the pain. They self-medicate with attention, with validation, with situationships that look like healing but rot from the inside. Let me paint it straight. That new person they ran to. That's not love. That's morphine. It dulls the ache, but it doesn't cure the wound. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Avoidants flip that wisdom upside down. They chase external distractions because they can't sit with themselves. And every rebound, every casual fling, every "I'm good, see?" Instagram story is proof of one thing. They're terrified of silence. And you sitting here right now, you've been tricked into thinking their noise means they've moved on. No, their noise is proof they haven't faced what's really inside. Psychology backs this. Research shows that rebound relationships often last less than 6 months and carry higher levels of insecurity and avoidance. Why? Because they're built on escape, not stability. They're not healing, they're stalling. But here's where it gets dangerous. That stall doesn't erase the crash. It only postpones it, sometimes by weeks, sometimes by years. And when it comes, it's brutal. See, the avoidant cycle always comes full circle. First, they run from intimacy. Then, they chase validation. Then, when the buzz fades, they feel the same emptiness they tried to bury. That's when the struggle surfaces. That's when the sleepless nights start creeping in. That's when they realize that no situationship, no rebound, no casual fling filled the void. And you need to know this, because if you don't, you'll waste your life comparing your healing to their distractions. You'll think you're behind because they've got someone new. No, they're behind. Because while they're numbing, you're building. While they're buffering, you're becoming. Let me remind you, healing is not the same as coping. Coping is smoke. Healing is fire. Coping avoids the truth. Healing faces it head-on. Coping numbs. Healing transforms. Seneca said it best. To be everywhere is to be nowhere. And that's the avoidant life. They scatter themselves across buffers, across flings, across temporary highs, so they never have to sit still. And stillness is where the truth cuts deepest. Now, here's where you come in. You're not here to track their downfall. You're not here to obsess about their next situationship. You're here to rewrite your own blueprint, because when you finally stop giving energy to their distractions, you become untouchable. Let me make you a promise right now. If you stay with me in this series, if you watch to the end, if you apply what we break down, not only will you stop obsessing over whether they struggle, you'll stop caring altogether, because you'll be too busy stepping into a version of yourself that they couldn't even touch if they begged for another chance. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about proving you're better. This is about building a life so solid, so magnetic, so high value that nobody ever has the power to shake you again. So if you've been craving clarity, if you've been tired of the same cycles, if you're done letting their fake happiness play with your head, commit to this, right here, right now. Because here's what we're going to uncover together in this series. Why avoidants appear fine at first, but secretly aren't. The difference between coping and healing, and why most people confuse the two. How rebounds and situationships delay the inevitable crash. Why no contact is still the most powerful move, even when they're posting with someone new. And exactly when and why their struggle actually hits. That's what's waiting for you. That's the truth nobody else is bold enough to say. But before we go deeper, I need you to take a stand, right now. In the comments, type this: I choose growth over distraction. Type it not to impress me, not to prove anything to them. Type it to claim that you're ready to stop peeking over the fence at their fake healing and start building your own, because this is your reset. This is your edge. This is the high-value dating blueprint. And when you step into it fully, distractions die, buffers burn out, rebounds collapse, and you rise. So hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because what we're about to cover will not just shift how you see your avoidant ex. It'll change how you see yourself, how you date, how you love, and how you carry yourself for the rest of your life. Lock in. This is your moment, and we're just getting started. Stay focused. Key point 1. Why avoidants appear fine at first, but secretly aren't. Let's cut straight through the smoke. When you look at an avoidant right after the breakup, it looks like they're thriving. They're out, they're laughing, they're posting pictures, maybe even wrapped up in somebody new. And you're on the other side of the silence, wondering, did I mean nothing? How can they move on this fast? That's where most people crack. They see the highlight reel and think it's the truth. But you need to know this: their fine is fake. Here's why. Avoidants are emotional escape artists. When the breakup hits, their first instinct isn't to sit with it, to reflect, or to heal. It's to run. And when I say run, I don't mean physically. I mean mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They run into distractions, into validation, into anything that keeps them from being alone with their thoughts. That new fling? That's not love. That's a buffer. That smile? That's not joy. That's a mask. That energy? That's adrenaline. And adrenaline burns out. The truth is, the breakup wounds them too, but they've mastered the art of numbing. Avoidants operate like emotional surgeons with a cheap anesthetic. It dulls the pain, but the wound is still there, bleeding beneath the surface. Psychology tells us this too. Studies on rebound relationships reveal that the majority of people who rush into something immediately after a breakup are driven by avoidance, not desire. They're looking for distraction, not connection. And here's the kicker: those rebounds rarely last because they're built on sand, not stone. So why do they look fine? Because appearances are everything to an avoidant. They would rather die than admit vulnerability. They've built their identity on independence, on not needing anyone. So after a breakup, they perform that independence louder than ever. The new photos, the busy schedule, the sudden glow-up. It's not healing, it's PR, it's damage control. But here's what you don't see, the private moments. The 3 a.m. silence when the phone isn't buzzing. The nights when the buffer they latched onto isn't enough. The creeping thoughts they drown out with noise, scrolling, hookups, substances, or fun that feels emptier every time. Seneca once said, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." But avoidants, they don't have themselves, they have distractions, and that's weakness dressed up as strength. Here's the raw truth you need burned into your mind. Avoidants appear fine, not because they are fine, but because their entire survival strategy depends on looking unbothered. It's smoke and mirrors. Meanwhile, you, sitting here watching this, you're facing your pain head-on. You're doing the hard work, you're learning, you're sitting in silence and not letting it destroy you. And yes, it hurts like hell. But guess what? That hurt is progress. That hurt is transformation. That hurt is the fire that forges you into someone who won't collapse the next time love gets tested. They numb. You grow. They distract. You heal. They stall. You evolve. So the next time you see them smiling with someone new, don't ask, why are they so happy? Ask instead, what are they hiding? Because make no mistake, they're hiding. They're hiding from intimacy. They're hiding from their own reflection. They're hiding from the truth that you already started to face. And here's the coldest part. Their struggle doesn't show up when you want it to. It shows up later, when the distractions fade, when the rebound ends, when the validation stops hitting like it used to. And when that silence finally catches them, it's brutal, because all the pain they postponed comes flooding back at once. But that's their path. Yours is different. Your job is not to track their crash, it's to make sure you're so far ahead by the time it happens that you don't even care. So remember this. They only look fine because they're terrified to look real. Key point 2, the difference between coping and healing, and why most people confuse the two. Let me throw a grenade in the room right now. Most people aren't healing, they're coping. And that's the reason they keep running the same relationship cycles, falling for the same types, ending up in the same pain. Because coping feels like progress when in reality, it's just a pause button on your suffering. Let me make it plain. Coping is about survival. Healing is about transformation. Coping is a bandage. Healing is surgery. Coping numbs the wound. Healing removes the infection. Coping hides the pain. Healing rewires the pain. But here's the trap. Coping feels good short-term. That's why avoidance, and honestly most people, choose it every time. They drink, they swipe, they sleep around, they overwork, they binge-watch. They keep busy. That's coping. It creates the illusion that the breakup is behind them when really they've just duct-taped the cracks. Healing, on the other hand, is raw. It's lonely. It's uncomfortable. It means sitting in silence, facing your reflection, and letting the pain teach you something instead of running from it. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Healing is when you challenge your estimate. Coping is when you run from it. Let me give you an example. An avoidant gets into a rebound. They say, "See, I'm good. I've moved on." But that's coping. It's outsourcing comfort. It's using a human shield against intimacy and vulnerability. And here's why it backfires. The rebound doesn't heal the underlying wound. It just delays it. The emptiness is still there, waiting for the distraction to fade. Now look at the opposite. You choose no contact. You sit in the silence. You let yourself grieve, and it hurts. It feels unbearable some nights. But that's where transformation happens, because you're not outsourcing comfort, you're building it inside yourself. You're not numbing the wound, you're cleaning it out. And that's why when you come out the other side, you're stronger, sharper, and more self-aware. Here's the hard truth. Most people confuse coping for healing because society rewards coping. We live in a culture that says, move on fast. Look unbothered, stay busy, show them you're happy. That's coping, that's the mask, that's the performative, I'm fine energy. But healing doesn't look good on Instagram. Healing looks like tears at 2 a.m. Healing looks like journaling instead of texting. Healing looks like walking away from the same toxic patterns, even when loneliness tempts you back. Healing looks like building discipline, setting boundaries, and saying no to the things you once craved. Psychology backs this too. Studies on post-breakup recovery show that people who confront their emotions, reflect on the relationship, and give themselves space to process, recover faster long-term than those who suppress, avoid, or rebound. Coping numbs. Healing rebuilds. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Coping is craving more distractions. Healing is needing less. So let me hammer this into you. If you want to truly heal, you cannot just cope. Coping will keep you in the same cycle, dating the same avoidance, feeling the same heartbreak, wondering why nothing changes. Healing requires discipline. It requires intentional solitude. It requires choosing growth over comfort. And I know some of you watching this are realizing you've been coping, not healing. You thought staying busy meant you were moving forward. You thought replacing them meant you were winning. No, you were avoiding the mirror. But the fact that you're here, investing your time into this blueprint, proves you're ready for something different. Because coping keeps you stuck in the past. Healing makes you untouchable in the future. Remember this, coping is about escaping. Healing is about evolving. Coping is survival. Healing is rebirth. Coping keeps you needy. Healing makes you magnetic. So the next time you feel tempted to numb your pain with a quick distraction, remember, you're either coping or you're healing. And only one of those will actually set you free. Key point 3, how rebounds and situationships delay the inevitable crash. Let's call it what it is. Rebounds and situationships are anesthesia. They don't heal, they don't cure, they don't build, they numb, they distract, they stall. When your avoidant ex jumps into something new right after the breakup, it's easy to believe the lie. They've moved on. They've found someone better. They're happier without me. But here's the truth. What you're witnessing isn't growth. It's escape. Rebounds and situationships are emotional morphine. They ease the sting in the short term, but they come with a brutal cost, the crash. And that crash is inevitable. Why? Because rebounds don't address the wound. They cover it. They throw glitter on the scar and hope nobody notices the infection underneath. Think about it. If someone is truly healed, they don't need a placeholder. They don't need to prove they're wanted. They don't need a look I'm fine partner to parade around. They can sit alone. They can breathe in silence. They can be whole without a warm body in their bed. But avoidance can't sit still. That silence feels like death to them. So they fill the gap with someone new. Not because they want them, but because they can't face themselves. Here's where psychology slaps the truth on the table. Studies on rebound relationships show that while they provide temporary boosts of self-esteem, they almost always lack depth, intimacy, and stability. In fact, research found that rebounds carry a higher risk of dissatisfaction and collapse because they're built on comparison, not connection. In plain English, your avoidant ex isn't choosing their rebound out of love. They're choosing them out of fear. Fear of silence, fear of stillness, fear of confronting. The crash usually happens in stages. First, the novelty wears off. The excitement of new fades. Then the comparison sets in. They start noticing differences. They start remembering what they lost. Next, the emptiness creeps back. The rebound isn't enough to fill the void, because the void isn't about you or them. It's about their own broken patterns. Finally, the weight hits. The emotions they buried resurface, and they realize that all they did was kick the can down the road. That's the crash. And it's inevitable. Here's what you need to lock into your mind. Their rebound isn't progress. It's procrastination. It's emotional debt with interest. And when the silence finally hits, when the situationship can't keep them distracted anymore, they pay it all back at once. That's why their breakdown feels delayed, but also deeper. Meanwhile, what are you doing? You're facing your pain. You're doing the inner work. You're healing for real. And yeah, it feels heavy in the beginning. But here's the difference. You're paying your bill now, in installments. They're letting it pile up, and when it hits them, it wipes them out. Think about how powerful that makes you. They're numbing, you're strengthening, they're stalling, you're building, they're lost in a buffer, you're rewriting your blueprint. The truth is, rebounds and situationships are smoke grenades. They blind outsiders, they fool the ex, and they trick everyone into thinking the avoidant is unbothered. But once the smoke clears, the battlefield is the same. They're still wounded, still avoidant, still unable to face what matters most, connection with themselves. So the next time you see them post up with somebody new, don't let it shake you. Don't let it trick you into thinking they're winning. They're not winning. They're delaying their defeat. And when that defeat arrives, you won't even care, because by then you'll be too far ahead, too focused on your own healing, too busy living the life they'll never catch up to. Remember this, rebounds are temporary. Situationships are shallow. The crash is permanent. The pain is inevitable. Key point 3, how rebounds and situationships delay the inevitable crash. Let's call it what it is. Rebounds and situationships are anesthesia. They don't heal, they don't cure, they don't build, they numb, they distract, they stall. When your avoidant ex jumps into something new right after the breakup, it's easy to believe the lie. They've moved on. They've found someone better. They're happier without me. But here's the truth. What you're witnessing isn't growth. It's escape. Rebounds and situationships are emotional morphine. They ease the sting in the short term, but they come with a brutal cost, the crash. And that crash is inevitable. Why? Because rebounds don't address the wound. They cover it. They throw glitter on the scar and hope nobody notices the infection underneath. Think about it. If someone is truly healed, they don't need a placeholder. They don't need to prove they're wanted. They don't need a "look, I'm fine" partner to parade around. They can sit alone. They can breathe in silence. They can be whole without a warm body in their bed. But avoidants can't sit still. That silence feels like death to them. So they fill the gap with someone new. Not because they want them, but because they can't face themselves. Here's where psychology slaps the truth on the table. Studies on rebound relationships show that while they provide temporary boosts of self-esteem, they almost always lack depth, intimacy, and stability. In fact, research found that rebounds carry a higher risk of dissatisfaction and collapse because they're built on comparison, not connection. In plain English, your avoidant ex isn't choosing their rebound out of love. They're choosing them out of fear. fear of silence, fear of stillness, fear of confronting. The crash usually happens in stages. First, the novelty wears off. The excitement of new fades. Then the comparison sets in. They start noticing differences. They start remembering what they lost. Next, the emptiness creeps back. The rebound isn't enough to fill the void, because the void isn't about you or them. It's about their own broken patterns. Finally, the weight hits. The emotions they buried resurface, and they realize that all they did was kick the can down the road. That's the crash. And it's inevitable. Here's what you need to lock into your mind. Their rebound isn't progress. It's procrastination. It's emotional debt with interest. And when the silence finally hits, when the situationship can't keep them distracted anymore, they pay it all back at once. That's why their breakdown feels delayed, but also deeper. Meanwhile, what are you doing? You're facing your pain. You're doing the inner work. You're healing for real. And yeah, it feels heavy in the beginning. But here's the difference. You're paying your bill now in installments. They're letting it pile up, and when it hits them, it wipes them out. Think about how powerful that makes you. They're numbing, you're strengthening, they're stalling, you're building, they're lost in a buffer, you're rewriting your blueprint. The truth is, rebounds and situationships are smoke grenades. They blind outsiders, they fool the ex, and they trick everyone into thinking the avoidant is unbothered. But once the smoke clears, the battlefield is the same. They're still wounded, still avoidant, still unable to face what matters most, connection with themselves. So the next time you see them post up with somebody new, don't let it shake you. Don't let it trick you into thinking they're winning. They're not winning. They're delaying their defeat. And when that defeat arrives, you won't even care, because by then you'll be too far ahead, too focused on your own healing, too busy living the life they'll never catch up to. Remember this, rebounds are temporary. Situationships are shallow. The crash is permanent. The pain is inevitable. Key point 4. Why no contact is still the most powerful move, even when they're posting with someone new. Let me break the illusion right now. No contact is not about them, it's about you. But here's where most people lose the game. They see their avoidant ex posting with someone new, smiling in selfies, playing happy couple on Instagram, and panic sets in. The questions hit. Should I break no contact to remind them I exist? Should I fight for them before this rebound gets serious? What if I lose them forever? Stop. That's desperation talking. That's ego talking. That's your fear of abandonment screaming louder than your discipline. And if you fold now, you hand them all the power. Here's the raw truth. No contact is powerful, precisely because it makes no exceptions. It doesn't bend for their posts. It doesn't break for their new fling. It doesn't pause just because you feel triggered. Why? Because no contact isn't a strategy to get them back. It's a declaration that you are no longer chasing validation. It's the ultimate reset button. It cuts the fuel line that keeps the cycle alive. Think of it like this. Every time you break no contact, you're feeding their ego. You're saying, you still control me. And guess what? Avoidants thrive on that. They feed on knowing they can run, detach, and you'll still orbit them. That's what keeps them from ever facing themselves. But when you hold the line, when you don't fold even after they post with someone new, that silence rattles them, because suddenly they don't have the control anymore. Suddenly, the game they're used to playing doesn't work. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When they distract themselves with buffers, you choose discipline. When they seek validation, you choose solitude. When they flaunt noise, you choose silence." That's strength. That's growth. That's healing. And let's be clear, those posts you see, those happy updates, they're not meant for the new person. They're meant for you. They're a performance, a highlight reel, a smoke show designed to make you react. Because if you react, they know they still have you. But when you don't, when you vanish into silence, when you refuse to feed the fire, that eats at them more than any text you could send. Because now the question flips in their head. Wait, why aren't they chasing me? Why aren't they watching? Why aren't they reacting? That's when curiosity creeps in. That's when their fake fine starts to crack. That's when your absence begins to feel real. And here's the part nobody wants to admit. Your silence isn't passive. It's active. It's pressure. It forces the avoidant to face themselves, and they hate that. Psychology proves this too. Studies on attachment dynamics show that when the anxious partner, that's often you, withdraws completely, the avoidant loses their emotional anchor. The cycle breaks. And without that cycle, they're forced to confront the very intimacy fears they've been running from. That's why no contact works, even if they're with someone new. Because the new person doesn't erase your energy. The rebound doesn't cancel the bond. All it does is temporarily distract them. But your silence, that's unavoidable. That lingers. That haunts. So don't get it twisted. No contact isn't weakness. It isn't giving up. It's the strongest move you can make because it says, I don't need to prove my worth. I don't need to chase what ran. I don't need to collapse because you found a distraction. Seneca said, he who is brave is free. No contact is bravery. It's the refusal to fold to fear. And that's why it frees you from the cycle, from the obsession, from the illusion. Now listen carefully. If you're watching their stories, checking their posts, obsessing over who they're with, you're not in no contact. You're in fake no contact. You're starving the body but feeding the addiction with scraps. That's not power. That's torture. Real no contact means silence, detachment, discipline. It means letting them live their fake fairy tale while you build your real empire. It means letting them win in public while you win in reality. And here's the promise I'll make to you. If you commit to no contact fully, no games, no peeking, no reacting, you'll stop caring whether they struggle. You'll stop needing to know if the rebound ends. Because you'll be too busy building a version of yourself that no avoidant, no rebound, no situationship could ever compete with. Remember this, no contact isn't about waiting for them, it's about elevating you. And the more you elevate, the more their distractions collapse under their own weight. So hold the line, stay silent, because your silence is louder than any post they'll ever make. Key point 5. Exactly when and why their struggle actually hits. Let me put this in your face right now. Avoidants don't dodge the struggle, they delay it. And that delay, that's the most dangerous part. Because when the struggle finally hits, it doesn't tap them on the shoulder, it knocks them flat. Here's the pattern. After a breakup, the avoidant runs. They look fine. They get busy, they post, they distract, they rebound, and to everyone watching, it looks like they've moved on clean. But the truth, they've just buried the pain under distractions. The problem with burying pain is this: it doesn't die. It waits. It waits until the rebound stops thrilling. It waits until the late nights feel too quiet. It waits until the new person no longer gives them the high they once did. It waits until silence is the only voice left. That's when it surfaces. See, pain has a timetable of its own, and avoidants think they can cheat it with distractions. But pain is patient. Pain collects interest, and when the bill comes due, it's savage. Let me break down the exact moments their struggle tends to hit hardest. 1. When the rebound collapses. At first, they're high on novelty, but rebounds almost always crumble because they're built on escape, not connection. And when that collapse happens, the avoidant has no choice but to face the original loss they tried to numb. Double the pain. 2. When they're alone at night. The performance works in public. The smiles, the selfies, the nights out. It convinces the world. But at 3 a.m., when the phone doesn't buzz, when they're alone with their own thoughts, that's when the silence becomes unbearable. That's when memories creep in. 3. When life slows down. Maybe work calms. Maybe the social circle shrinks. Maybe the distractions thin out. Avoidants thrive on busyness, but life isn't always loud. And when things quiet down, the void they've been running from starts echoing back. 4. When they see your glow-up. This one stings. They thought you'd crumble without them, but instead, you elevated. You stayed silent. You leveled up. You became magnetic. That realization slices deep, because they can't pretend they were the only one who moved forward anymore. 5. When years pass and nothing changes. This is the most brutal. Some avoidants don't crash right away. They coast for years in buffers, distractions, shallow connections. But eventually reality catches up. They look around, and the truth hits. They've been running in circles while you've been building a life. That long-term regret is heavier than any breakup pain. Seneca said, "No man was ever wise by chance. Wisdom comes from facing the truth, and avoidants avoid truth like it's poison." That's why their struggle isn't immediate. It takes time because they refuse to sit still long enough to learn. But here's what you need to lock in. The struggle is inevitable. It may hit in weeks, it may hit in months, it may hit in years, but it will hit. Because distractions fade, buffers collapse, validation runs dry, and when all of that noise dies down, the silence becomes deafening. That's when the avoidant feels the full weight of what they lost. That's when their mind replays the moments they ignored. That's when their heart realizes they didn't replace you. They just delayed the ache of losing you. And here's the part that gives you your edge. By the time their struggle surfaces, you won't be the same person anymore. You'll be healed, evolved, leveled up. You won't need their regret to validate you. You'll already be living in your blueprint. So let me flip the script. Stop asking, when will they feel it? Start asking, how far ahead will I be when they do? Because their crash isn't your opportunity to win them back. It's your proof that silence works. It's your confirmation that coping fails. It's the universe showing you that avoidance doesn't erase pain. It multiplies it. Remember this. Their struggle hits when the noise fades. Their struggle hits when the distractions collapse. Their struggle hits when silence becomes louder than denial. And when it does, don't be there waiting for their apology. Don't be there feeding their cycle. Be so far ahead they can't even reach you anymore. Because the truth is, they don't struggle if they struggle. They struggle when. Becoming untouchable. So let's bring it all home. You've just seen the truth stripped bare. Avoidants don't win after the breakup. They don't thrive. They don't rise above. They cope. They numb. They distract. They delay. And eventually, every single time, they crash. But this isn't about them anymore. This is about you. Because right now, you're standing at a fork in the road. You can keep obsessing over their posts, their rebounds, their fake happiness. Or you can finally commit to the only path that matters, your own. Let me ask you something. How much more of your life are you willing to waste staring at someone else's highlight reel? How many more nights are you going to bleed energy into wondering what they're doing, who they're with, whether they'll regret losing you? That obsession is a prison. And no contact was never just about getting under their skin. It was about breaking you out. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the whole game. The avoidance power collapses the second you stop reacting, the second you stop chasing, the second you stop making their fake performance the center of your universe. Because here's the brutal truth: their struggle is guaranteed. But your transformation, that's optional. Most people never heal. Most people cope. Most people keep cycling through the same toxic relationships because they're too scared to face the silence. But you've got a choice. You can take what we've broken down in this video, in this series, and use it to finally level up. That's why we're stepping into the high-value dating blueprint. Because it's not enough to just understand avoidance. It's not enough to just survive the breakup. You deserve to thrive. You deserve to stop attracting chaos and start choosing peace. You deserve to stop settling for situationships and start aligning with love that feels like home. But that only happens when you stop playing small, when you stop waiting for their struggle to validate you, when you stop making them the center of your story. This is your reset. This is your edge. This is your blueprint. So let me leave you with this promise. If you commit to this journey, if you stop skipping, stop scrolling, stop distracting yourself, and actually lock in with me through this series, your entire dating life will shift. You will become so grounded, so magnetic, so unavailable to the past that your avoidant ex won't just regret losing you. They won't even be able to reach you. And that's the point. You don't rise to punish them. You rise because you refuse to stay broken. You don't elevate to show them. You elevate because your life demands it. You don't become untouchable for revenge. You become untouchable because that's who you were always meant to be. So here's my call to action. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because what's coming next in this high-value dating blueprint isn't just information. It's transformation. It's the step-by-step map to becoming the version of yourself that no avoidant, no rebound, no situationship, no toxic pattern can ever shake again. And before you leave this video, I want you to anchor this moment in the comments. Type this mantra right now. I'm building a life no one can take from me. Not for me, not for them, for you. Type it, claim it, stamp it as the first brick in your new foundation. Because the truth is this: avoidants may struggle later. They may regret it in silence. They may replay the loss for years. But by then you won't care. Because you'll be too busy building, growing, attracting love that feels like peace instead of chaos. Their story ends in struggle. Yours begins in strength. And this blueprint, it's just the beginning.